Well, hey guys, have you ever just wanted to just ask someone who's maybe one step ahead of you so many questions that just pertain to your journey into real estate or your journey into starting real estate? Well, in this episode, Marian does just that. She reaches out, asks for a quick call, and we kind of just break down all of the first step questions that she had. Hey guys, thanks so much. Welcome to Investing with the Baldovinos. My name is Josh. You can follow me on Instagram here, and on this channel, you can follow along our real estate journey. Yeah, in terms of how do I know the calculator is accurate, um, one of bigger pockets is the authority, right?
Mhm,
But so I mean, I do subscribe to their pro feature, which
mhm.
do you by any chance?
I have not yet.
You should. You should. The calculator is
Yeah,
awesome. I know that they allow you to do like 5 calculations for free.
right.
Um, but other than that, like there's a bunch of other cash flow calculators you can find from other YouTubers or influencers that I've
Mhm.
downloaded. And then another one, I mean, if you've been kind of researching, have you seen Chandler David Smith on YouTube and or Instagram and or TikTok, everywhere, etc.
I will
Uh,
look into that. Maybe I have, yeah, I'll look into that though.
so I do build my own spreadsheet ish.
Mhm,
I don't calculate cash flow on the spreadsheet, just because those numbers seem a little bit like to a certain extent are kind of just cut and dry, right? Like it's
mhm.
PITI,
Yeah.
your vacancy maintenance, et cetera. Like all those are fixed costs and
Mhm,
can kind of just get generalized.
mhm.
And for the most part, you're probably going to be within 50 to 75 bucks, like give or take. I mean, if you're looking at Jacksonville, that's probably, plus or minus that, like that's your swing.
Mhm.
Um, there's an app. Chandler David Smith is this other YouTuber that I follow. This guy is basically sold off all the single family stuff and only has big multis only, but he made a free app called Rental Property Calculator,
Okay.
or it's called Rental Calc. Sorry. I don't know if you
Okay.
can see the icon. Oh, will it focus? There we go.
Okay.
Um,
Thank
that's
you.
super easy way to just plug and play the numbers again too. Just your purchase, your down, your rehabs, your to figure out cash flow. And what I've
Mhm.
found, I've probably analyzed. I think I earned the bigger pockets like calculator gold award, like you 200 calculations right for analysis. And then I've cross referenced my numbers with his calculator probably for about a few dozen deals now, and they're
Okay.
they're basically 1% off of each other, maybe at the most.
Mhm.
And it could just be because I was allocating different percentages, but for the most part, like you can look at those two and you can build your own. The one that I built for myself
Mhm.
actually is more on the financing and loan terms,
Okay.
especially if you're going to use hard money. I don't know, like what's your lending strategy? Are you going to 20% down, 25% down? What are your thoughts there?
So for my first, I am open to doing conventional
Mhm.
financing. Um, in terms of how much down, I think with investment properties you can't always just put 20. Sometimes I think they require a higher percentage. Or maybe it depends on the lender, I'm not
Depends on the
sure.
lender for sure.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm willing to put up to, like, based on how much properties are going for sale in
Yeah.
Jacksonville, I am willing to put up to like 30% if that's what I have to put down. Yeah.
Well, don't put down 30%. Like keep as much equity as you can possible that
Right.
still cash flows. Like if you can find a
Uh-huh.
deal that you can put 20% down, obviously you're going to have a
Okay.
bigger loan balance,
Right.
right? And you factor that into your mortgage payments.
Hmm.
But on a hundred, if property is 100K, 10%
Hmm.
extra is an extra 10K.
Hmm.
Like that could almost fund half of another deal
Hmm.
if you're going to go
Right,
conventional
that's
route.
true.
So you want to keep, like for us, um, like full transparency for our
Hmm.
financial situation, like we were saving, and I was just like, it's like, okay, we're gonna buy properties. The first one was conventional. We put
Hmm.
20% down. Um, and then I just thought about it and I was like, okay, we had like 100K saved, which is great,
Hmm.
but 20% down plus closing fees plus minor maintenance that we had to do, which was about $5,000. Like we ended up leaving 36K in the deal,
Hmm.
which is fine, right? That means we can do 2 or 3 deals.
2 more, yeah.
But like, does a few $100s a month times three, $900 a month, like, is that life-changing money? Definitely not.
Yeah.
And then, but it still was a great deal. Honestly, buying that deal, the property net, like Columbus has gone, like real estate in general has gone crazy.
Yeah.
Like the values, like we bought it for 119. Zillow estimates it to be between 160 and 210 now. Take the
Wow.
average of that, like that was like instant 40K in equity in a month or two
Yeah.
months, you know? So now I'll take that any day of the week. Um, but yeah, I like call lenders,
Mhm.
call a million lenders.
Yeah.
Like I think I found a lender that quickly did 20% down and was super investor friendly. And that was after like 5 calls. But when I went hard money
Mm.
side, like I literally called 50 hard money lenders.
Mhm.
Because that one was and like that one's tricky. Like you find a lender that like required, like if you're going conventional, it's pretty cut and dry, right? Like interest rates are
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So like, are you really fighting over maybe a difference of $20 a month? Like that's not worth fighting for me,
Mhm.
you know? But if you want hard money side, where it's like between 2 and 3 points down and 8 and 15% interest, like
Mhm.
those are numbers that like you have to fight for.
Right.
Um, but yeah, don't put more than, like, find a lender that'll put
Like the
20,
least.
25%. Yeah, like don't consider 30 at all. Like that should
Right.
not even be an option.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I guess it does make sense though to keep as little money possible in the deal.
Yeah, because it's not just
Um,
this deal. It's, I don't know how much cash you have saved, but it's how many more
mhm.
times can you replicate that? And depending on what your
Right.
goals are, like what are your goals?
Right. Right. I mean, speaking of my goals, I I love my job. I'm not trying to retire early and like quit or anything like that. So, I mean, I'm not trying to have real estate to to replace my income completely, right? I want real estate to just like supplement that,
Mm-hmm.
give us some extra cash flow a month, and thinking long term, create generational wealth for my future kids and their
Yeah.
kids. Um, I feel like that's really general, but that's
No, for
kind of
sure
like
though.
that's kind of what I want. I'm not trying to own like hundreds of properties. I mean, if I can get to that, that would be great. But like right now, that's
Yeah.
not really something I'm looking for. But I mean, those are my goals right now, at least. I'm sure I'll fine tune it with time. But yeah, I mean, the financing part is something that I really need to research about because I don't really know anything about hard money or private lending.
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't things that I've really looked into,
Do
not yet at
you
least.
do you own your house now or do you rent?
We have a condo and we
Okay.
live in San Ramon, so we have a condo. Um, yeah, but that we bought this with conventional financing. So,
The other thing to remember is that as the investor, you're the customer.
mhm,
So
mhm,
it's super easy. Like once you start to have those conversations, they'll start to fight over you and your business.
mhm.
Because I mean, if you're going to do multiple loans and get multiple houses in Jacksonville, right?
Yeah,
You're
that's
technically
true.
will be a reoccurring client, over the years.
Mhm,
So um, you're the customer.
right, that's true. Yeah. Um, and another question, kind of off topic. Um, I I think I saw it in your Instagram post where you had a bid from a contractor and it
Mm-hmm.
turned out that contractor you felt like that contractor was too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did you know they were too expensive? Like, because for me as a beginner, like I have nothing to like compare it to. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know what the standard numbers look like. I don't know, just curious how you knew
No.
that.
Good question. So, I mean, and like, when we talk about the beginner questions, I'm probably like 2 steps ahead of you. Like, we bought our first properties in January. We bought 3 in the
Okay.
last, we bought 2 in January, 1 in February.
Wow.
So we just moved fast. Like, my wife
Yeah.
and I made the decision, like at the end of November, hey, we're doing this. And then
Hmm.
we just started making offers in December, and then finally
Hmm.
closed in January. And that's like when I say we're a couple steps ahead of you, that's really all we are. Um, and so in terms of finding out, how much a rehab would cost, our agents are really nice. One, as you're picking
Hmm.
agents, make sure that they are actually investor friendly.
Right. Yeah, I hear that a
Um,
lot for sure.
like, because one, you may be a little bit more, you'll be a lot more particular. Actually, I don't know, right? Because if you're like, this is your family house, then maybe there's more emotional sway that, like, I would want to deal with that,
Hmm.
but yeah, once you establish your buying criteria, um, it's just a matter if it works or not.
Hmm.
And so when I found the investor friendly agent and he knows that I want to do rehab, then they've worked with other agents, also we talked to other investors that they worked with just to verify.
Okay.
And so when they would walk the properties initially, they're like, yeah, that's great. We're thinking XYZ needs to get replaced. All in all, a low rehab could cost 25K, a high rehab would be like 30,
Hmm.
right? And then I was like, okay, right. And then I took 10% more on top of that, right? That was
Right.
33 or whatever it is. Um, and so when the contractor came back with our bid at 150, I was like,
Like
this is
third
more than
time.
the after repair value of the house.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Um, and so then that's when we were like, oh crap, like, did we do something wrong? Like, are we going to lose out on this deal and all, the inspection, all the stuff they put into it. But I
Hmm.
actually had 2 more contractors. I paid them, or I offered to pay them to bid the job.
Hmm.
Um, and then one came back at 36 for the job.
So
Right. And
it's
that's
kind
also
of
just
spot
because
on.
yeah, I mean, our roof needed more repairs than the agents can see from the floor. Um, but in the grand scheme of things, that wasn't too bad. Um,
Hmm.
but there is definitely, like, being out of state and not knowing anything about construction,
Hmm.
like, you're going to have to pay to learn.
Yeah.
Like, any deal you're going to put an offer on, if your inspection's $300-400 plus the contractor bid is anywhere between, 100 and $200, depending on the contractor,
Hmm.
like, you're almost at, like, once you get locked under contract, you have to be okay with leaving
Yeah.
$600,
Leaving money.
maybe $800, maybe $1,000, just as the cost of doing business.
Right. That
So
makes sense. And then when you had a contractor walk in and take a look at the property to do the estimate, where does that fit in with the whole process? Is this like while you're under contract, or like after the offer was accepted?
I think that depends on the market.
uh,
And the market right now is a seller's market, right? So
yeah.
the faster you can close, the faster you have your contingencies. And a lot of the properties, well, I guess for you it's different, because if you're going to go for the 20% conventional route right now,
Hmm.
um, it has to appraise to a certain amount, even if you were to
Yeah.
offer on it. And so
Yeah.
if the bank's not going to appraise it and they're not going to underwrite the loan for the property because it's
Hmm.
too distressed, then that property is not going to work for a conventional loan.
Right.
So the rehab costs, I would imagine you're not spending too much on rehab. It's maybe just like paint and
Like
carpet or something.
cosmetic stuff.
Um,
Yeah.
but that usually happens, at least from my experience in Columbus, and I would assume that Jacksonville is pretty hot too, just given like the rent to price ratio and stuff. A
Hmm.
lot of the stuff you end up getting it locked under contract first with some contingencies like financing contingencies or inspection contingencies, and then you
Yeah.
bring a contractor in.
Okay.
Um, and so you're almost doing all work blind.
Yeah.
And then, like, our very first house that we had under contract, um, especially if there's already tenants inside there, a lot of them are curb offers only,
Mm-hmm.
meaning
You
that you
can't go
can't go into the
inside.
house. So
Yeah.
you're making an offer on a property that you can't go in. And then once you
Is
get it
that how
under
your first,
contract,
that's how your first one was? There was a tenant in there already?
that's what our first offer was. Yeah. And then our agents walked it before we hired the inspector, and they were like, "You don't want this one. This one's like literally like just coming down. This is our first house." And we're like, "This is not going to appraise." It's like,
Uh-huh.
so then we walked out of the contract because that was, part of our thing.
Mm-hmm. And you had the
Once,
contingencies in
mhm.
place so you wouldn't lose your earnest money.
Yeah, yeah. So once it's under contract, the buyer really has all the power.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you can get your financing in place and meet your timeline,
Mm-hmm.
like you have the power to whatever dates you end up setting in your contracts of your inspection
Right.
period and your due diligence.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
What are the
How is
questions?
your rehab going, by the way? Just curious.
Yeah, well, that second property that I had on the Zoom, the rehab's done, and we're just waiting for tenants now. Actually, tenants have been kind of a harder process.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if our property manager initially priced it a little bit too high. We did just recently drop it from 1,300 a month to 1,250.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I don't know. I'm just playing it by ear. Our property manager, as I'm talking to him a lot more, I'm liking him a lot more. I'm also
Yeah.
just maybe trying to butter him up more than most of his other clients are, because I want him to take care of our properties the most.
Yeah.
So I'm brown nosing wherever I can. But hopefully, within the next 2 weeks, we'll have someone locked in there that's solid. And then in terms of our duplex rehab, yeah, that got started gutting last week. A few more different things. I think actually the tenants that left actually I think ended up breaking our garage door, so that's an extra $1,500 that we'll not have to pay for.
Jeez.
Um, the other advice that I would give to you is what's the easiest way to put this is like so one, being okay to leave $1,000, like writing off $1,000 once you lock something under contract, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I could potentially never see $1,000 again, and that's okay, and you
Mm-hmm.
accept it.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is once you actually like close on something, you have to write off another 10 to 15% more, right, of the rehab.
Mm-hmm.
So like our contractor said, oh, it's anywhere between 43 and 48 for this rehab. I immediately just said, we're going to spend 55.
Right. Just kind of
And
overestimate
I'm just,
on top of what they give
that's
you.
it. So, I'm not like, okay, 48. And he's like, hey, it's in the 15 for the garage door. Cool. All right. So now I have another $5,000 left to buffer, right? So if he's giving me something else, like up to $5,000,
Yeah.
then you have met my expectation. Um, and I'm like, I automatically write it off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my first one, I didn't do that. And I was like, starting to get stressed, like, oh man, it's another $200 here, another $500 here, another, like, there's going to be something. So just up it. And then after that, you're cool.
Yeah,
But then write your numbers. Like when you analyze your deals,
for sure.
you just over budget.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of set expectations. Be more
Yeah.
realistic, I guess.
Just always worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And are you comparing your actual numbers to, I guess, your initial analysis before you offered on a property? Like once you started renting it out, like you kind of did a comparison to see like, okay, like my analysis was correct, or like how
Yeah.
off it is from it.
So I think for us, and this really goes down to your property management company, right? Because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
them will also have like onboarding or marketing fees,
Right.
right? So, it's anywhere between 50 to 100% of first month's rent.
Yeah.
Ours is 100% of first month's rent.
Yeah.
It also had the lowest eviction rate of all the ones that I talked to. So I know that I'm paying more up front, but hopefully I'll have, a better long-term
Less
tenant.
turnover. Yeah.
And but yeah, looking at kind of the numbers, I think it took us 3 months to actually get to the numbers that I calculated for. But it did get
Okay.
there, because the first month was a wash because they took it. The second
Yeah.
month was there were some maintenance fees just to for some extra key copies and changing out the lock somewhere. So that was like 50, $75 gone there. And then for the first time last month, we got the full everything of exactly what the numbers I budgeted for.
Okay.
Um, so it works. It's just really depending on, obviously, when you have maintenance requests, then that's going to change.
Yeah.
But that's also why you start saving for maintenance.
Yeah. Like having reserves. Okay. Okay. I mean, I don't think I have any other questions. I just kind of wanted to get some feedback from you as someone who is also investing out of state. I guess overall, like, do you have any other tips, any other advice you can give me?
What are I guess, what are your next immediate steps? I think what's hard is there are so many things to look at, and it's
Yeah,
it's super easy to get overwhelmed.
that's where I am right now. I find myself getting overwhelmed all the time just because from reading, it'll kind of trigger in my head, like, okay, you need to do this. And so, like, I'll write it down. But I have so many notes. So it's like I'm trying to go through that list, and I don't know, I'm just trying to take a step back and look at the big picture and see, okay, what do I need to do next immediately to kind of make progress?
Yeah.
And I guess, yeah, like for me, I want to start calling lenders just to see what kind of numbers I would be working with. Try to find a couple other agents and property managers and talk to them. That's something that I'm kind of struggling with because the property management company and the agent that I spoke to, and I also spoke to their like one of their clients, like I really liked them, but at the same time, I don't want to just trust the first agent or the first property manager that I talk to. Like I want to talk to a few more, but it's like my gut is telling me that these people are really good. So I don't know if I should talk to a couple more just to like say I talked to 3 or 4.
Yes. Yes. 100% yes. Like even if you love them already, that's great. But at least just get, like, for anything, just get the 3 bad ones. Just so you know what the bad ones are.
Yeah.
And it's free. It just
That's
takes
true.
time, right? It's like a 30-minute phone conversation, but at least you have scope. Because you like they could be good, but you don't know how good.
Right. That's true. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so I guess that's something I would do next, like find a couple more and just make a decision, I guess, who I would want to go with. And then analyzing properties too. That one I'm kind of nervous about. I feel like I need to do more research just so I know my numbers are fairly accurate. Because if I'm putting these numbers in, it's not accurate, then that just defeats the whole purpose of properly analyzing a deal. So yeah, I guess those 3 things are what I would be doing next.
Yeah, I mean, and I would break down even further, right? I'd say I'm going to call 30 more property managers tomorrow, right? And then on Friday, I'm calling 5 banks. And then, with the banks, ask the really specific questions, right? It's like, hey, I want to do investing. Here's our household income. Here's our credit scores. Here is, how much of the property value that I'm looking at and what I'd like to put down. Can you ballpark rates?
Yeah.
And that way that conversation could be super fast, and you're not taking a lot of their time, but you're getting the information for your time.
That makes sense. And then in terms of getting pre-approved, because I know when you get a pre-approval letter, that letter is only valid for, I don't know what the timeline is now, but like you can't just hold on to that for years and just use that pre-approval letter. So,
Get like
so like when you
30
found,
to 90 days, depending on the lender. I mean, I
Mhm.
think some will even give you a 6-month one.
Okay. So,
So
so when you got your pre-approval letter, like, did you feel the pressure, like, oh, I need to find a property within that time frame they give you?
no,
Otherwise, you could just
I
ask
mean,
for a new one.
yeah, you can always ask for a new one. And like, I honestly, finding the lender is the easy part, especially if you have a solid W-2 job. Does your
Yeah,
partner also have a solid W-2
yeah,
job?
we both do.
So yeah, that's
I feel like I'm
that one
focusing on the
almost
wrong
like
thing.
have like no stress on that one
Okay.
because
Yeah.
you really can't go wrong, right? Like
Hmm.
you'd be a perfect candidate as long as your credit's good. Do you have good
Hmm.
credit?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So if you have good credit, anything over 740 is considered amazing in a lender's eyes. So between
Okay.
740 and 850, you are actually considered the exact same person.
Hmm.
So there's no upside to having an 800 credit score.
Right.
Um, and credit does nothing if you
Okay.
don't use it.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, just find 5 lenders, say, hey, the investment property, and just figure out who will acquire the least amount down to close.
Yeah.
Keep that equity, roll it into more stuff, but just
Yeah.
break it down. Like have that, and then once you get a call with 3 more property managers, 5 lenders, probably another agent too, but like break them up by
Hmm.
days so that way you can actually have it somewhat kind of the same and the conversations make a little bit more sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Is your spouse helping you?
Yeah, it would be the two of us together.
Are they also actively like? Are you like the sole operator and they're just kind of like in the background? Like, how is that working out?
I feel like I am the sole operator. Like this whole idea of out of state investing, it definitely started with me, but he's on board, like he's down. But I think in terms of like doing the research, making the calls, it's me. Because
Yeah,
I mean, I'm lucky enough that I get to work from home. So I kind of have like more time. He actually has to drive to work in
gotcha.
Fremont. So he doesn't have as much time. But like we have the conversations, but he's pretty much on board with whatever I want to do, to be honest.
It's like, show me the numbers. Cool. All right, go ahead, do it.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as we're like not losing money, then it's fine
Yeah.
with him. But yeah, I feel like it's me. So,
No, I mean, yeah, I think just have more of those conversations.
hmm.
Break it down and like make it a goal. Like it's
Hmm.
like I'm calling 5 lenders today, and you're just
Oh,
going down the
really?
list. Like I would sit there
Okay.
and I would block out, especially if you're going. I love investing in the East Coast or like the East Coast time slot for people in California because you can literally send stuff like late at night. It's like nine
Mm,
o'clock at night, and you wake up in the morning, and then you have answers.
you have a response already. Yeah.
Like that's my favorite part about investing in a time or in a time zone that's ahead of
Right.
us. Um,
That's true.
but you just have to have more of the conversations, and then once you have more of the conversations, it becomes a lot more clear.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I'm starting to see that when I'm talking to agents and property managers. And sorry, I have one more question. It just
Yeah,
like keeps coming up as I'm
no, go
talking to
for
you.
it.
Like with hard money, that would is my thought process correct? Where that would only make sense if it's like a burr property where you're rehabbing it. Like it won't
Yes.
make sense for turnkey
No.
because you won't add value or
Hmm.
anything. Okay.
Yeah, hard money is a short-term loan
Yeah.
used to fix up a property. Basically, gives you an offer as strong as cash for the most part because they can close
Hmm.
just as fast as cash, depending on the
Hmm.
lender. Obviously, a lot more expensive,
Hmm.
but it's short-term only. Um, and yeah, you'd have to burr the property out and then refinance it and or sell it and flip it.
Right. To get that cash to pay them back.
Yeah, because you end up, on a, I don't know, say you bought a house for 150K, or your total loan to value or your total project cost is 150.
Hmm.
Right? Say like you're buying it for 100, putting 50 in it to rehab. say the ARV is like 200 something,
Mm-hmm.
but you're loaning 150K, which means that you're probably going to pay them like, maybe like $10,000 to $15,000 to borrow that money when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
So
Do you feel pressure with that? Just because there's like the time frame is shorter and like you have to rehab it. I don't know. That's why I'm scared of burr properties. I don't want my first one to be a burr because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like turnkey might be a little more digestible for a beginner, even though the
yes,
cash flow is lower, probably.
no, cash flow is
Or
cash
yeah.
flow is roughly, I mean, it really depends on the area, but I feel like cash flow is probably a little bit more on a turnkey just because the loan amount on a refi is typically less.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it
Okay.
really depends on like to the level and extent of your turnkey property and also your burr
Right.
property and all that stuff. Um, but do I feel pressure? I budgeted, again, worst case scenario, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
was 48 rehab at 55.
Mm-hmm.
For my burr property, I budgeted as if I was and hard money is interest only payments.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately said it's going to take me 6 months to refinance this out.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 6 months in a bank account of interest only payments that are sitting there. And I've
Mm-hmm.
only made 2 payments so far. And I closed in January. It took me 6 weeks to rehab. And then
Mm-hmm.
we're on week 4 of us actually finding a tenant.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, I have the reserves to float this whole time.
Right.
So I don't feel rush and pressure. I mean, I do feel rush and pressure just because every month costs me like $1,200. So
Yeah.
yes, but I've already written it off.
Yeah. Like you have that money if you need to.
So it's not like it's not like a die sort of pressure, but it's like almost like if you achieve this metric, you get a bonus type of pressure.
Yeah.
Like
Makes sense.
that's the difference that I feel.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I'm ready for a burr yet. I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like there might be more moving parts or I
There's
feel
a
like once
lot
I
more
get
moving
more,
parts.
yeah. Yeah. I think that's what I was trying to say. Like if once I get more experience, then yeah, I'd be willing to kind of explore into a burr property. But for now, I feel like turnkey might be a little more manageable for me. I don't know. I'm scared. We'll see what happens. Manageable for me. I don't know. I'm scared. We'll see what happens.
I mean, if you don't mind me asking, how much capital do you guys have to play?
So right now we have a saved in the bank.
Okay.
And with that said, like we have reserves for our mortgage on our primary. So it's not like it'll zero us out.
Yeah.
Like I'm very conservative. I don't want to play with, all our money like that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's almost basically the same exact game plan as us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was, I mean, we locked in 36 for one property. This
Mm-hmm.
bird that once we refinance it out, we could potentially. At first, I
Make
was
money.
thinking we were gonna like leave money in the deal, like $5,000. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, $5,000 for a property, not too bad, right?
Yeah.
But now that there's been appreciation since I've bought and rehabbed it, like we could actually get more money back.
Mm-hmm.
I probably won't do that just because I don't want to mess with the cash flow, right? When you increase that loan amount,
Yeah,
you mess with
that's
the
true.
cash flow. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm probably going to take enough just to basically break even, and then I'll have the cash flow.
Like infinite cash flow since you left no money in there.
Exactly,
That's
exactly.
amazing.
And then from there, yeah, we're working on our duplex. And then, yeah, I mean, I have, enough money to do one more. I mean, well, technically, I guess a couple more bird deals.
Mm-hmm.
But that it does take money to start the rehab because the rehabs are done
Right.
reimbursement basis, not on
Right.
they don't give you 40K up front. You have to pay, say the contractor does a week of work and it's like 10K. You pay the
Uh-huh.
contractor 10K.
Right.
The hard money lender then pays you back for that work. So you have to have money to front it.
Okay. Are those the draws? Is that what? Okay. So like you'll front it and then the lender will pay you back. So kind of just like
Yes.
flows. Okay.
Yes. And every time you do a draw, it costs anywhere between 100 to 200 bucks.
Well, there's like a fee attached to it.
Yeah, because they hire an inspector to go in there, verify that the work that you paid for was done.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just basically paying that process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
And
yeah,
are
we took.
you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say we ended up taking actually only one draw,
Hmm.
like in the middle. So it was like a 6
Mm-hmm.
project, but I just floated half of it and was like, okay. Uh, I actually ended up putting it on my credit card just because he took credit card payments. And I was like, oh, I could think of the miles,
Yeah, the points inside.
Um, and so then I was like, oh, but it's due in a week, so let me just pay it off now.
Mm-hmm.
What was your question?
Oh, I was just going to ask about like when an inspector comes to verify that the work is done before you do the draw. Um, is that like are you supposed to be the one to look to find the inspector, or is that kind of, I
No,
don't know
they
how
have
that works.
somebody.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's something that I'm always wondering is like who does what, like what am I responsible for? But I guess that information just kind of flows in as you go through it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I would
Okay.
say, when you think about BRRRRs, like that hard money side, like that took me a second to grasp.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also why I literally called over 50 hard money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I finally found a short list of who I liked.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And are they all local to Columbus?
no, no. I mean,
Mm,
if you're on Bigger Pockets, you'll see that some of them are national hard money lenders. Some of them are here in California that also did business
I
and
see.
whatever. So, but I ended up actually going with the local Columbus one
Cool.
just because they required the least. They were actually more expensive,
Mm-hmm.
but they required the least amount of money down for me.
Got
I'm
it.
paying more in interest,
Mm-hmm.
like $100 more per month in the interest only, but I ended up bringing 10K less to the table.
Right.
So that trade-off it minimized my risk initially. So that trade-off was worth it to me.
Makes sense. Okay. I mean, I guess I don't really have any questions. So
Yeah. No, I mean,
thank you.
I think you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Like, keep asking questions. Feel free to ping me anytime too if you have anything else.
Cool.
If you're running numbers, you're like, hey, can you take a look? Like, does this even make sense? Like, I'm
Oh,
happy
yeah,
to look
that'd
it
be
over.
awesome.
And then keep me posted too
Yeah,
on where you end
for
up
sure. Thank
accepting or
you.
offering on.
Yeah, I definitely will. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'm so new to this, so any feedback from anyone, I'm just like open to all of that. So yeah,
Yeah, it's
thank you so
crazy.
much.
Is the gurus on social media right now? A lot of them actually only started a couple of years ago, so we are
Wow.
not that far behind.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that. I mean, yeah.
But I think once you do your first one, like once you do like your first, even like conventional one, and then your first
Hmm.
burr, like it's the same.
Hmm.
Like if anything, it just gets cheaper and easier because you have better relationships.
Yeah. That's what I've read too. I think a lot of people say is once you get through your first one, then you're like, oh wow, this isn't even that bad. Like I could do this again.
Yeah,
So hopefully I feel that way.
you will. This legwork of building the team like is the worst part.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, is this how it's gonna be like the whole time, or is it just once you get your solid team, like you're good? That's what I
Yeah,
feel
once you get a
like.
team, you're good. Once you get comfortable with the numbers, you're good. Like, I mean, I have my spreadsheet that I've made that gives me rent to price ratio, so I can like look at listings super fast.
Mhm.
And then to like analyze a deal, it probably takes me less than 5 minutes. Like if a wholesaler gives me a deal, like, hey,
Mhm.
interested. Like if it even meets my criteria, like that takes like is like a 1 minute test for me.
Mm.
And then
Mhm.
if it does, it's another 5 minute test for me to say, okay, hey, here's my offer price on this.
Yeah. Cool.
And that just
Yeah.
takes time.
Hopefully, could find something. Yeah, I have a goal to find one property by the end of the year, so I have
Oh my God, don't
7
do that.
months. 7 months to find something.
If you
So.
like, if you make your goal next, tomorrow it's lenders, the
Uh-huh.
next day it's property managers, the next day it's real estate agents. And then at that point, by next week, you'll have a pre-approval letter in hand
Mm-hmm.
and you'll probably have a good idea of your agents. And now you're just shopping.
Yeah.
It'll happen faster. Just make those
Yeah.
calls first. Like Just
For sure.
don't get distracted. Only make those calls.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote down what I need to do for like the next couple of weeks, so I got to stick to it.
Yeah. Well, have
All
fun.
right.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
It was nice to meet you. Have a good
Yeah,
rest of your
you
day.
too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys found value. If you did, please consider subscribing down below. Give it a thumbs up. That like button, please, 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 please. That'll help. And of course, I'd love to continue to network. So if you love to, if you're open to networking at all, feel free to leave it in the comments down below, or also follow me on Instagram or on TikTok. I'd love to just see what you're up to and connect with fellow investors. But thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Oh man, my glass is kind of empty. I need more wine. Cheers, you guys. Okay, that actually recorded. Good job. Pinot Noir. Do you guys like Pinot Noir? Strawberries, cherries, red fruit. Like a really bright acidity. And actually a really long finish. This is a good wine. Really heavy in my mid palate though. And then it starts to move out to the outside later on. Not much to nose, but there's like a little leather component to this. Maybe it speaks to the oak. Sonoma Pinot Noir, Nolly Winery. Give it a try.